Welcome to the No Regrets Leadership Podcast, where leaders are empowered to equip and disciple men.
Welcome to the No Regrets Leadership Podcast. My name is Steve Sonderman, and it is just great to have you with us today. Our purpose for the podcast is to encourage and equip you as a leader of men to more effectively disciple the men in your church and in your community. For the last few months, we've been on a little sabbatical as a podcast, and now we're starting up again this month. And what we're going to do here over the next number of months is we're going to have a podcast each month that is going to sort of be a follow-up to our Leading with No Regrets newsletter. That comes out each month and has different resources and articles, testimonials from various leaders and churches around the country that are doing ministry to men. And what we thought we would do is one of our podcasts each month is to allow me the time to really flesh out in a greater way the article that I wrote for the newsletter. And so for this one, I'm going to be talking about what does it mean to create an environment in your small group for men to grow. It's one thing to have 5 to 8 men sitting around a table and calling themselves a group, but it's a completely different thing to become a group, to have a place where the masks come off, where the men begin to share their hearts, they reveal their feelings, confess their faults, disclose their doubts, admit their fears, and really are open to being accountable to one another. For this to happen, I've discovered over the years that the leader must intentionally develop a safe environment. In the very same way that a greenhouse provides an optimal place for plants to grow, so we as leaders of men are to be designers of environments for men to grow. And so this podcast is going to talk about if you are a small group leader, if you're designing gatherings where men can come together, like a men's breakfast or a seminar, a place where men can come together, I'm going to share with you 5 qualities that you can build into that gathering, into your small group, so it's the optimal place for a man to grow. So let me just walk you through this list and then try to give you some applications as well for each one of these. Number one is authenticity. A small group needs to be a place where a man can truly share their heart without the fear of being shamed or made fun of or being judged or looked down at. And what I've discovered over the years is that the vulnerability of the group will be in direct proportion to the vulnerability of the leader. For many years, 30 plus years, we would always in the fall have a kickoff for all our discipleship groups. And that kickoff would be Friday night and then Saturday morning. Friday night was given as a place where I would share the vision of discipleship and what the groups were going to be about and things like that. And then the groups would go off all over the church. And normally from 8 to like 12, these groups would have chance, each guy share their story. And I always told the leaders ahead of time that you need to go first. You need to share your story. And I want you to be as open as you possibly can, to bring out all the baggage, all the skeletons from the closet, and to share what's really going on, the hurts, the addictions, maybe where you were abused or things that you struggle with. To come down off that pedestal, being the small group leader and letting the guys know that being vulnerable and real is okay. That in our group, no perfect people are going to be allowed. We're just going to be authentic and real, right? Men need to see authenticity, and they're looking for a place where they can be authentic. I know in my own life, I am sick and tired of trying to hide behind sports, behind titles, positions, possessions. And in order to develop an environment, it starts with the leader being vulnerable. And the second principle I've learned is that we encourage voluntary vulnerability. And so as you're developing your group covenant and you're talking about your group covenant at the very beginning of your small group, talk about that. Talk about vulnerability and not forcing it, not saying you guys, we're going to have you share your deepest sin this week, but rather just say, listen, we're going to have voluntary vulnerability. Be as open as you can be at this time. And what you'll discover, guys, is that as time goes on, as trust is developed, and as men share a little bit more, it's almost like I'm peeling the onion, and they'll share more and more and more. But again, they're going to take their cue from you as a leader. They will only be as vulnerable as what they see in you as the leader. If you want to have a safe place where men can share, where men can grow, where men can just really mature and take off in their spiritual growth, it begins with developing an environment of authenticity. The second quality I want to mention is acceptance, a safe environment to grow. Each person is accepted for who they are, and they're affirmed for their uniqueness and all that they individually bring to the group. As I've said before, a small group is a place where no perfect people are allowed. Every man that comes into that group has struggles, and they may have secret sins that no one else knows about. And men are looking for a place where they can be accepted just for who they are, period. Not accepted because of what they do, or not be accepted because of what they own, or the company that they have, or who they know. As many of you know, for the last 10 plus years, I've been chaplain for the Milwaukee Brewers baseball team, and I just gave that up in the last year. And having worked with the professional athletes over the years, what I've discovered is for so many athletes, their acceptance was based purely on what they achieved and how they performed on the field. And what I had to overcome and help them understand that for me, it wasn't what they did on the field the night before, whether how well they hit or how well they pitched or fielded or anything like that. It wasn't about their stats or their performance, that I accepted them just for who they were, for the man God created them to be. And I can tell you that it took sometimes years for that trust to be built up, for them to really see that I accepted them just as a man, and that they could be honest and open with what they were dealing with and what they were struggling with, because they knew that I wasn't going to judge them. I wasn't going to look down on them. I wasn't going to make them feel guilty or shame them, but that I accepted them just as God's creation. And so, guys, as you're working with your men, I want to encourage you, again, as you're talking with them individually, as you're inviting them into the group, as you're walking through your covenant, and as they begin to share things, even your body language will say, I accept you. You don't shriek, you don't close your eyes and like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just said that. But rather, you just accept them where they're at, but you let them know that I love you so much that I'm not going to allow you to stay where you are. So what does it look like to build an environment where men can feel safe and they can grow and mature? It's a place where they can be authentic, and it's a place where they're accepted. And then third, it's a place to be affirmed. You just think about it, guys. Where can a guy go today and not be beat up or made fun of or belittled? How many of the guys go to work and their boss is waiting for them at the front door and saying, hey, thanks so much for coming in today. We're so glad that you came to work and are going to spend 8 to 10 hours here. Or their boss is at the door when they leave at 6 at night saying, hey, thanks so much for putting in your 12 hours. And, I just can't imagine this company being what it is without you, right? I mean, that just doesn't happen. And then they go home and all their kids are on the driveway waiting for them and say, Daddy, thanks so much for working, man. We just love you so much. Now we can eat today. There's food on the table because you went to work. And how many of us have a wife at the front door that's there to hug us and kiss us and say, oh, I've been looking forward all day to seeing you. And then you turn on the TV and what do you see, guys? Well, all right, every sitcom you watch, it's making fun of man. It's making them look like a buffoon and it's belittling them. Where are men encouraged? Nowhere. And if there's one thing a man needs today, it's encouragement. They need to know that someone's on their team. And your small group should be a place where men are cheered, where they're encouraged and they're supported. When one of them takes a step of faith, they're cheered. When one of them says no to sin, they are encouraged. When one of them is going through a difficult time, they are supported. Encouragement is powerful. It has the ability to lift a man's shoulders, to put a smile on his face, to change the course of his day. week, and even his month. And you can do that through a short text, a phone call, a strong handshake, a hug. You can let them know that, hey, I'm on your team. I have your back.
The No Regrets Men's Conference 2025. Live in Brookfield, Wisconsin, and around the world. Saturday, February 1st. It's one epic day of men, faith, and community. Hear from world-class speakers who will sharpen your faith, challenge your beliefs, and equip you biblically to be a fearless influencer of society. Attend in person or online at a host church, a men's small group, or individually. No Regrets Men's Conference 2025, Saturday, February 1st. Register today.
I can still remember years ago when Colleen and I were young parents and we had 4 kids under 7 or 8, right? And boy, oh boy, all you see are the negative things. You see all the stuff left in the driveway. You see the broken window, the broken screen, the bed that's never made, the toilet seat that, is never put down. I mean, you just see all the problems, right? And I can still remember Colleen's dad just, pulling us aside one day and saying, hey, listen, guys, I just want to encourage you to get off your kids' back and get on their team. And boy, that just revolutionized our parenting. It also applies to ministry to men. The guys don't need someone else, discouraging them and beating them up. What they need is someone that's on their team, someone that has their back, someone that's going to sort of put wings on them and say, fly, you can do this. And that's what affirmation does. It just lifts a man's shoulders, puts a smile on his face, and can change his life. Authenticity, acceptance, affirmation. Now you're probably thinking, oh, he's got another A. No, I don't. The fourth one is it's a place where confidentiality is upheld. Guys, maintaining confidentiality is something you must stress as you begin your group. And you continue to reinforce it on a weekly, monthly, and yearly basis. I want to just encourage you that everything in that happens in that group, everything that is said must stay in the group. There was a sign above the clubhouse with the Brewers that said, what you see here, what you hear here, stays here. And guys, I want you to envision that sign above your small group meeting. All right. And I want you to understand that a break in confidentiality will set the group back months and may cause men to leave and never come back. The breaking of confidentiality will truly, truly ruin an environment for growth, maturing, serving, and sharing. And so what I always told the group, I said, listen, guys, I said, now, if we're going through the book of Philippians and we're starting in chapter 1 and you learn a truth and you want to tell your wife the lesson you learned from Philippians 1, that's fine. But when it comes to what we talk about and when we get to the sharing and prayer time, I said, that can't be shared with anyone. And of course, guys, as leaders, we know that the only place where that would change, the only caveat would be, is if a man starts talking about hurting himself or hurting another person. That's the place where you need to step in as a leader and to get that man help. But other than that, we need to really uphold confidentiality. And then the fifth principle I really want to talk about here, guys, is it's all about relationship. I have a very good friend, longtime friend, men's ministry. His name is Vince Diacchioli. And Vince has said over and over again, he says, it takes a relational environment for truth to become transformational. I can't tell you how many times I've quoted Vince on that because, men, it's all about relationships. When Jesus invited those early disciples to follow him, he did not invite them into a program. He invited them into a relationship. And that's what we're doing. We're developing a relational discipleship network. It's not just a program. It's not a class. It's not a seminar. It's not a workshop. It's not just a normal Bible study where we're just going to share information. No, this is going to be truly the sharing of lives. It's one-on-one and one-on-three. It's walking through life together, developing those relationships with one another. And oftentimes those relationships are going to turn into lifelong friendships. And so, guys, I just want to give you a couple applications here that I think will be helpful. Number one, as you begin a new group, if you're a new leader and you're just getting started, or you're starting up with something new, I want to encourage you that you want to spend more time in the beginning on sharing your stories, spending time together, getting to know one another, more time on that than the content. The content truly is secondary to developing the strong relationships with one another. And what you'll discover is that they may come because of the content, because of the title of the study or what you're studying, but they stay because of the community. Did you hear me on that? Men might join the group because of the content, but they stay because of the community. And so spend time in the beginning of your group, spending more and more time on building those relationships, sharing your stories, talking with one another, going over the history, the hurts, the hopes, the dreams. And as time goes, you can then balance it out with the content. The second application is this, is that the more time you spend outside the group, the more effective the sharing and the deeper the sharing will be inside the group. And so what I'm going to suggest here is, if you're just a group getting started, plan a social early on, plan a service project, go to a ball game, have a barbecue, do a Friday night retreat together, but get outside the environment of that group where you can just sit around a campfire and talk and laugh and share stories and jokes with one another. And what you're going to discover is the more time that you guys spend outside that group, that official group time, the deeper the conversations will go inside the group. Here's the principle that I've discovered, is that the side-by-side conversations around a campfire, around at a retreat center, on a golf outing, turn to face-to-face deeper conversations. It's earning the trust. It's developing the relationship that happens outside the small group time that will enhance what happens inside the group. And so, guys, those are 5 principles for developing an environment for men to grow and to mature. It takes time. There is just no way about it. In the very same way, like plants in the spring that need good soil, fertilizer, and constant watering to grow, so men need an environment where they're accepted, where they're affirmed, where confidentiality is upheld, where they can be authentic in order to grow and to mature into fully devoted followers of Jesus. So, guys, I hope as you think through that and you've listened to this podcast, you'll be able to make application in your small group environment. And I would encourage you, if you're a leader, to forward this podcast to all the other men's small group leaders at your church and say, hey, listen to this and let's get together to talk about this. This would be a great tool for some training, for a coach's huddle with all of your small group leaders. And as always, we say what would really be helpful is you'll like this, give us a good rating, and forward it on. Subscribe to us so you get our podcasts on a regular basis. And so, guys, thanks so much for what you're doing in your ministry to men. And if there's anything we can do to help you, to equip you, to encourage you in what you're doing with men, please just let us know. We'd love to walk alongside of you in the journey of launching a discipleship movement in this country and around the world. Until next time, this is Steve.
Thank you for joining the No Regrets Leadership Podcast. For more information and to access past recordings, please visit www.noregretsmen.org/podcast.
Life Camp USA is a nonprofit organization that mentors young men who have lost a father due to military or law enforcement service. Life Camp USA provides an all-expenses-paid, week-long, world-class camp experience that inspires, equips, and navigates these fatherless young men through some of life's toughest moments. Life Camp USA's mentors serve grieving families by helping these sons establish healthy identities, values, character, and goals without the crucial aid of a father in their life. To learn more about LifeCamp's mission, visit lifecampusa.org. Again, that's lifecampusa.org.